I've become wiser about life at the age of 82, but there's a choice I'm very sorry I made. Transferring to an assisted living facility, I felt confident in my decision because my loved ones backed it, assuring me that I would get the level of attention and comfort that I need trusted them. However, upon arrival, I saw that the truth was meaningless, much as I had anticipated, and I am familiar with a number of consider this alternative if you so want. Whether for yourself or loved one, maybe you feel like it's the safest option, or maybe you've been told it will make life simpler. However, before you take that step, I want to share 6 things I want someone had informed me before I moved in, because the fact is, living in a nursing home isn't simply about convenience. It changes everything, because once you go in, getting out isn't as straightforward as you believe. Remain with me till the finish, because some of these lessons could surprise you. And if you know someone contemplating a nursing home, this video could be accurate, what people need to hear before making a life-changing choice. Now, let's began regret. 1. Losing my independence. The greatest shock following going into a nursing home wasn't the tiny space, the established meal times, or even the unknown faces. It was the understanding that I had lost control of my own life. Before I came in, I had my routines. I picked when to wake up, when to eat, and how to spend my day. I could take a stroll anytime I wished, prepare my own food, or simply sit silent, in my comfortable recliner with a book. But within the nursing facility, I rapidly recognized that my time was no longer my own. Anything operated on a timetable that wasn't mine. Breakfast was at a certain hour, even if I wasn't hungry. Lights out occurred at a particular hour. If I was ready for better, not want to take a stroll outdoors, you could require authorization, and you'll probably have to wait till someone is offered to aid you. Basic selections like what to eat or even what to wear began feeling like perks instead of fundamental decisions. I recall my first week there, waking up in a bed that didn't feel like mine. I sat up, stretched. I grabbed for the book I had been reading at home, but as I glanced around the room, it struck me. This wasn't my home, my books, my favorite chair. The little comforts I had spent years acquiring were gone. In their place were sterile walls, a bed I didn't pick, and a sensation I couldn't shake. I was no longer in command of my own life. The toughest half, comprehending that if you give up your independence, gaining it back is almost difficult. You adjust, since you have to. You stop disputing when they tell you what's for supper. You stop asking whether you may go for a stroll anytime you like. You learn to fit inside their system, but in the process, you start losing yourself. If you're contemplating a nursing home, ask yourself, are you ready to give up the little liberties that make life yours? Because after they're gone, you'll miss them more than you ever imagined. Imaginable regret. 2. Feeling forgotten. One of the saddest realities about moving into a nursing home is understanding that the globe outdoors continues going without you. When I initially came, my relatives comforted me that they would come regularly. I believed them, and in the beginning they did. My daughter comes by once a week. My grandkids visited on weekends, and for a small time it seemed like I still had a tie to my former life. But as the months passed by, the visits grew less frequent. My daughter began phoning instead of arriving. My grandchildren got busy with school and work. Holidays were the toughest. Everyone promised they'd come, but somehow plans always alter at the last minute. And suddenly, I found myself sitting alone in a common room, viewing other inhabitants look at the door, thinking today would be the day someone remembered them. It wasn't that my family stopped loving me. Life simply got in the way. When you're not around every day, it's simple for individuals too, that you're all right, that you're adapting, that you don't require as much care. Yet the fact is, the longer you're in a nursing facility, the simpler it is for folks to forget, grasp exactly how much you still need them. I recall one evening sitting in my room clutching my phone, pondering whether to contact my son. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to remind him that I was here waiting for a visit that may never arrive. So I put the phone down, and that's when it struck me. This was my living now, watching the days go by, hoping someone would remember to include me. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, question yourself, are you prepared for the loneliness? Since, no matter how much your family loves you, after you're out of sight, it's easier than you believe to become out of mind if you're still viewing this video and finding these ideas beneficial. Please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you, subscribe. Then turn on the bell so you don't miss any vids. Now, let's go ahead. Regret 3, losing my sense of purpose. When I transferred into the elderly home, I believed I was simply shifting where I lived. I didn't understand. I was also altering why I lived at home. I had obligations, I had routines, hobbies, and a cause to get up in the morning. Even the small things, watering the plants, making my own coffee, cleaning up my home, provided me a feeling of purpose. But at the nursing home, those everyday rituals, gone. Meals were prepared for me. Cleaning was done by someone other. The plants, well, they weren't mine to take care of anymore. At first, I told myself it would be good to finally rest, no more chores, no more obligations, merely relax. But after a couple weeks, I noticed something was missing. The days seemed long, stretched out, with nothing to anything except wait. I observed it in other residents. Many persons who had previously been full of energies now spent their days sitting, gazing, waiting for time to pass. There was a guy called George, 84 years old, who has been a carpenter his whole life at house. He was continually mending things, creating minor tasks in his garage. But here, there were no tools, no projects, nothing for him to construct. I watched as he gently removed his hands, once powerful and skilled, now idle in his lap. I feel useless, he told me one day, and I knew precisely what he meant. When you no longer have something to care about, something to strive toward, life starts to lose its meaning. The mind slows down, the body follows, and soon you start to feel like simply another resident in a place where time advances, but nothing actually changes. If you're contemplating a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life significance? Because once you advance in finding meaning, isn't as easy as occupying your time. It's about battling to hang on to the things that make you feel alive. Regret for decreasing health, quicker than expecting. Before I went into a nursing home, I was performing well for my age. I wasn't racing marathons, but I could still take care of myself. Go for walks and make my own food. I have my tiny habits that keep me moving. Groceries, shopping, stretching in the mornings, even simply pacing around the house to maintain my legs strong. Yet one time, I moved in, things changed. At first, it looked like I was just taking it easy. Meals were given to me, and I no longer had to stand in the kitchen to cook. If I wanted something, I could easily press a button and someone would come aid. But what I didn't comprehend was that the less I accomplished for myself, the weaker I got. I ceased moving as much, and soon my legs felt stiffer. I sat more than I used to, and before I realized, it got up from a chair, began feeling like a chore. The muscles I had spent years maintaining were gone quicker than I ever expecting, and it wasn't just me. I saw it happen to others. Also, those who walked in on their own 2 feet were abruptly relying on wheelchairs. People who had previously been autonomous now required support with things they never battled with previously. The more aid we were given, the more we seemed to need it. I recall my neighbor Alice, an 81-year-old lady who was lively when she first came. She used to take regular walks around the facility in maintaining that she wasn't going to slow down only because of a number, but after a few months, I saw she wasn't walking as much. Then she began using a walker, then a wheelchair. One day, she stared at me and replied, "I don't know when that occurred, but I feel like I aged 10 years in only a few months." And that's precisely what it feels like. When you stop utilizing your body, you start losing it. And at a care home, where everything is made to make things simpler, it's easy to forget that movement isn't only about, ultimately, it's about survival. If I had understood how swiftly I would lose my strength, I would have fought harder to keep moving, to be active, to push myself, even when I didn't feel like it. If you're contemplating a nursing home, ask yourself, will you still have the motivation to keep your physique strong while everything is put up to make life easy? Because if you slow down, getting back up isn't as simple as you think. If you're still watching this video and discovering these ideas, valuable Paulo's remark number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I suggest you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue publishing awesome content to enlighten and encourage you. Now, let's move ahead. I mourn 5, the loss of privacy and dignity. One of the things I didn't completely contemplate before moving into a nursing home was precisely how much privacy I would lose at home. I had my own area. I could seal my bedroom door, sit in solitude if I chose, and accomplish things on my own terms. But at a nursing home, privacy is a luxury you don't always get to keep. From the time I came, I felt like I was continuously being observed, staff coming in and out scheduled, room checks, in common areas where you're seldom alone. Even basic tasks like getting clothed or using the toilet frequently needed someone's aid. I know they were only doing their job, but it's not simple to accept aid for anything you've done separately your entire life. I recall my first week struggling with the concept that I had to beg for permission to do things I previously did without thinking. Desire to take a shower, you may have to wait until someone is accessible to assist. Need to utilize the restroom. Sometimes pressing the call button signifies waiting longer than you'd. So even lunch options were restricted. If you don't like what's on the menu that day, well, too awful. And then there was the problem of roommates. Not everyone receives their own room, and sharing a place with someone else, someone you didn't pick, may be annoying. I was blessed to have a friendly roommate. However, I heard tales from others who weren't so lucky. Some had housemates who were loud, dirty, or even had cognitive impairments that caused sleep very difficult. And no matter how much you strive to make your place feel like home, it's never fully yours. Dignity is a hard thing to lose. And I didn't understand how much of mine I'd have to surrender till I was already there. When individuals knock, but don't always wait for an answer before coming in while you're talked to, like a patient instead of an individual. When your everyday habits are governed by a timetable you didn't establish, it alters you. You start feeling less like yourself and more like simply another name on a list. If you're contemplating a nursing home, question yourself, are you willing to give up the privacy and control you've had your whole life? Because once it's gone, it's hard to get back. Regret. 6. Recognizing it's difficult to longer than you think. When I initially moved, entering the nursing home, I told myself it was transitory. I thought I'd give it to see how things went, and if I didn't like it, I could always leave. But what I didn't understand was exactly how hard it would be to get out once I was in. At first, it appears easy. If I didn't like it, I'd simply go back home, but home wasn't the same anymore. My home sat vacant, and preserving it from a distance became, because my children had already started making adjustments, selling items they assumed I wouldn't need, even contemplating renting out the apartment. When I brought up the possibility of returning, they hesitated. Are you sure you can handle? On your own, wouldn't it be safer to remain? We only want what's best for you. And then there was the question of physical deterioration. After months of living in a location where I didn't have to cook, clean, or even walk very far, I wasn't as powerful as I used to be. The freedom I once had began sliding away, creating the concept of relocating, going home, more harder than I ever. If I wasn't as sure in my capacity to live alone, and that fear kept me trapped, I met others who had the same experience. They figured they'd try the nursing facility for a brief time just to discover that leaving wasn't as simple as they believed. The longer you remain, the tougher it gets to adapt to life outdoors. Some persons even lost the opportunity fully after their house was sold or their funds were depleted by the expenditure of care. There was no going back. That's the part nobody tells you. Moving in seems like a choice you can undo. However, for most individuals, it isn't. The nursing house slowly becomes your complete universe, and before you realize it, the outer life you previously knew begins seeming like a faraway memory. If you're contemplating a nursing home, question yourself, are you prepared for the chance that once you go in, leaving may not be as straightforward as you suppose? Because once you settle in, the impediments to leaving, whether financial, physical, or emotional, might be tougher to overcome than you imagine. If you're still viewing this video and discovering these insights useful, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I suggest you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any films. Your support helps us continue developing excellent material to enlighten and inspire you. Last thoughts. Looking back, I don't regret getting older, but I do regret assuming that a nursing facility was my only choice. I stepped in, anticipating comfort, safety, and a higher quality of life. What I discovered instead was a world they gently stole away. My independence, my privacy, my purpose, and even my sense of self. Does that imply nursing homes are all terrible? Not necessarily. Certain individuals actually need the degree of care they supply. But before you make that choice, reflect carefully about what you're giving up, because once you move in, life would never be the same. If I could do it over, I would have fought difficult to remain in my own home, explored additional methods to receive assistance without giving up my independence, and made sure I genuinely needed must be there before making such a permanent relocation. And if you're confronting this choice, I hope you take the time to ask yourself if this genuinely what's best for me, or is it simply what appears easy right now? because the life you have today, your routines, your independence, your decisions is worth hanging on to for as long as you can. Thank you for joining us. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Post a remark below and share one item you learned today and how you intend to apply it in your life. Your ideas are vital to us. Therefore, don't hesitate to share them. Reading your remarks provides us immense inspiration and encouragement. If you loved this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share your contribution. Helps us continue making nice material to enlighten and encourage you. Thanks for viewing, and we look forward to seeing you in the future video.